Hi everyone, this is Eve. So welcome back to another video. Today I will be working on an anatomy tutorial. I know a lot of you, like a lot, said in the comments that you wanted an anatomy tutorial or some kind of tutorial on how I draw like basically figures and all that kind of stuff. So I thought today I would just fulfill that request and start with an anatomy tutorial. So as you can see, today I'll be working on 3 main poses. So starting off with one is probably going to be the easiest one just because it's like a simple standing pose. So as we get into it, I'll be discussing more about like my thought process about how I look at references and how I decide how I'm going to break it down into basic shapes basically. So sorry if the quality is not as good. It's my first time doing like a digital tutorial, so I don't know how to do them that well, but you know, I just screen recorded my iPad, so this is as good as we're gonna get. But about my process, so I usually start off with 3 main shapes. So 1 is the head, 2 is the rib cage, I think that's what I call it, and then 3 is like the waist in the midsection, which basically gives like the center of balance to the whole figure. So yeah, you can just see me working here. This is kind of like a quick sketch, so it's not going to be completely perfect, but I'm just blocking in the basic leg shapes here. Now with the arms, I tend to just kind of like make them into sticks and then just add like the meatiness around it. Oh, that's a weird way to describe it, but it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like the rest of my process. I kind of just put shapes around shapes, you know, just to add like that muscle definition. This obviously has taken me a bunch of practice, so don't expect it to get it right away. I expected to get it right away, and I was very wrong. So yeah, this has been many years in the making. But if you want to just like simplify your shapes, I'll just be showing how I do that like here. So like I said, head, torso, and rib cage and all that kind of stuff. Kind of looks like a chicken, not gonna lie. But anyways, yeah, that's basically how I used to simplify my shapes, kind of just like a stick figure. So if you think you can't draw a stick figure, you can actually, and that helps with a lot of stuff. So in order to get kind of like an accurate understanding of how like the body looks mainly, you kind of have to like focus on the like basic stuff first. So here I'm going to show how I draw like a body from a forward facing position, simply because that's basically how everyone starts off. That's how I started off, just doing like a bunch of front facing poses. And of course I shifted to the more typical 3/4 poses because I got kind of bored of it. But yeah. So mainly with these type of things, I kind of just go back to a lot of shape language basically. You can see here that I'm going to divide kind of like the head part and the torso part into different shapes. So for the head part, it's mostly just like a circle and a rectangle for the head and neck, which is usually what I use. So like 2 shapes. The body, a little bit more complex because it has a little bit more of like detail, obviously. So I use 3 main shapes. The rib cage, the circle in the middle, kind of acts like the twisty thing, and then like an underwear kind of shape because that's kind of like how the shape of like a normal pelvis is, you know, like that pelvis bone. In order to get like kind of those organic shapes, I kind of use very like quick, broad brush strokes just to help me get like that, I don't know, aerodynamic kind of shape language. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but you know, it kind of gives it dynamicy. So if like, let's say you're trying to like, I guess, make one straight line, your poses will look kind of blocky because you're using like really straight and like non-round lines, because the human body is necessarily like round and fleshy. So it's kind of natural for the human body to have like bumps and grooves everywhere. So with broad brush strokes, you can really get that organic movement going on in your poses when you're sketching. So kind of like stay away from like really straight arms, unless that's your style. Unless you want to do really like blocky arms and that's like your thing, go ahead, do it. Like, I love those kinds of artworks, but for me personally, I tend to move more towards like organic dynamic shapes with broad strokes. Now, as you can see here, I'm just trying out a couple of different like body types just to show you how the basics really apply to a lot of different types of body shapes and sizes and all that kind of stuff. So this is just me like creating a like rough sketch of like a different like body type, obviously, and it's kind of like, yeah, just using the same basics that I used, but like just adjusting the shapes and just adding and removing a couple of things. So like, if shape language is very important, so if you want, I guess, like a softer and like rounder body type, obviously you're going to be using rounder shapes and like rounder strokes, whereas if you use like sharper shapes, you'll get kind of a more defined and kind of bony look, if that's what you're going for in your characters. And that all just depends on whether you want to go reference wise or just want to go off of like your own characters, or just want to draw different types of characters. Now, looking at a character from the side, it'll be a little different. So going back to that ribcage shape, it'll look a little bit different just because it protrudes from like the back to the front. And also the spine is very important too, because when you're drawing a character from the side, especially full body, the spine is not totally straight, so you want to make sure you keep that in account. And also just like other shapes can get a little bit warped. So as you can see, like the pelvis shape is also a little warped. I'm not sure if this is 100% anatomically correct, but you know, I'm just kind of eyeballing at this point. It kind of just adheres to my own style personally, and so there's a lot of ways you can like tweak or manipulate something in order to make it the style you want, but that's just kind of how I do it. So going back and looking at this, I realized that I was going to do number 2, but for some reason my brain just blanked out on me and forgot I was screen recording. So I kind of didn't really do anything with it, so I'm just gonna take it out just because I feel like it's not really gonna do much for the video, so I just felt like taking it out would be okay. So now we're getting a little bit more into the trickier poses. So with this reference, I am definitely going to, yes, trace it. I say trace in a sense where you get like the basic forms and shapes out of it. There's multiple ways to trace, and there's many different ways that people like teach others to trace. I personally kind of just trace one, the line of action, and two, mostly like a bunch of large shapes like rectangles, triangles, and all that kind of stuff. So this wasn't really mentioned in my earlier process, but it's just something that I sometimes do. I'm just trying to break it down as much as I possibly can, because for the sake of this video, I want to go into as much detail as I can so that you guys can really like benefit from seeing every little step. But to be honest, sometimes I skip this step. Like I kind of don't do it, but just for the sake of you guys, you know, I want to help out. I want to be helpful. So I'm going to try to do my best to explain what goes on inside this noggin of mine. But yeah, this process is a little time consuming, so I'll just speed it up a little bit. Now I'm refining a lot more things, so just basically adding, again, the basic shapes that I've talked about throughout this entire video, but also just adding a lot of the fleshy parts, and just, you know, making sure that it looks like the reference image basically. So perspective plays kind of a lot into this as well. So I think there's also, what needs to be said is that this is an image that also kind of involves a bit of perspective, which I kind of didn't mention when I was first drawing it. But yeah, this is basically how it's going to turn out. Honestly, I was not too proud of it, but you know, there's always going to be some ups and downs, and you know, I thought it'd be useful also to just show some of the ups and downs that I also have. But yeah, I think it just takes a lot of practice to do this, and because this is my first time actually drawing on camera, it's a little awkward. But yeah, that's how number 3 turned out. So now I'm going to be moving on to kind of like the speed paint section of this video, because I feel like I've gone on enough. I've blabbered quite a bit. So yeah, I feel like it would be helpful for you to see how I work just in general. So I'll be showing you how I kind of drew this pose from memory, I guess, just using all the pieces that I've given you and shown you guys so far, and how I apply it to just like making my own poses. So yeah, like a little speed paint version of this. So this last and final bit of the video is just me going over the same things that I have been going through the entire video. I am simplifying my artworks into the shapes that I can mainly see. So as you can see, I'm going through with that pelvis shape, that like square shape, circles, literally just the simplest shapes that I could possibly think of. And that's basically just what goes down into like the basics of my artwork. So yeah, that's about as much as I think I can explain for one video, just because there's a lot more that I could probably ramble about, but maybe you guys wouldn't understand it, just because I sometimes don't speak coherently. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any other ideas for videos, let me know down in the comments below. Bye!